Hey people of this beautiful world, welcome back to Angelic Embrace, where we document and narrate the glorious and life-changing near-death experiences sent in by you guys. It is greatly appreciated. So sit back, relax, know that you are loved, and let's get into today's near-death experience story. Consider subscribing and watching to the end to find out what happens. I was 5 years old when I was riding my black pony named Fireball as my twin sister, my parents, and a friend of theirs watched us from a distance. My father had a friend over who he wanted to see how well we rode our horses. My sister was more timid than I was, so my dad decided that I would be the one to demonstrate. The muddy conditions in the enclosure made riding impossible. I was aware of this, but I didn't care about it. I began to canter about, and as I was doing so, I was performing my stunts. After I made a move to the right with the reins, the pony's front legs began to cross over to the left. I could feel us moving closer and closer to the barrier. The following is what I see. I am floating in space exactly above my body and staring down at it with a panoramic view. I can see the pony's legs becoming more upright. I looked underneath the pony and spotted a little of my pink jacket by the wither where it was attached. I was not in any discomfort and I had a sense of freedom. There were no feelings and there was no fear. Despite the fact that I had absolutely no link to the body that was underneath the horse, my mind was clear and I was acutely aware that I was still myself. I continued to gently ascend, all the while keeping my gaze fixed on the area below me. I can make out the screams of my mother. I glance back and see my parents running towards me, and my sister is standing at the gate looking terrified. However, I did not experience any fear, which surprised me given that I am still afraid of the night. I could hear someone speaking to me, but I couldn't see who it was. Everything seemed suspect to me. After what felt like a million queries, the solution was finally shown to me in my head in its whole and in its entirety only. I was aware that every action may have a potentially negative outcome, but that it would ultimately serve a higher purpose. Everything was excellent in some respect or another. I inquired about the breadth of religion and its associated beliefs. After some time had passed, all I could think of as a response was the phrase dogma. This term represented the idea that man's emotions confuse the truth and make it difficult to understand. Despite the fact that it was motivated by our best intentions, it prevented the spiritual development of others around us. I had the impression that I had spent a considerable amount of time in this location, questioning a being that was both patient and compassionate in response to the fundamental inquiries that I posed to it. I felt so educated and full. After that, there was a little flash of light. I found myself transported to a place where the clouds were the palest of white and the buildings were made of marble. There were a bunch of individuals rushing about in that area. Everything was illuminated, and there was light in every location. Even the minutest of particulars were made visible by the light. It was just stunning. There was a group of folks that traveled to see me off when they arrived. I am certain that they were familiar with me and were overjoyed to see me again. I was unfamiliar with that group of people. I persisted in my line of questioning directed toward these beings. I had to excuse myself from the group because the amount of love and information that was being shared was so intense. The next thing I recalled was standing at the base of some marble stairs. There were two towering entities clothed entirely in white standing there. I have the impression that they were angels. They were stunning, yet imposing and manly at the same time. The hair of one angel was light blonde and curling, while the other angel's hair was darker and straighter. Both of them were familiar with me. Despite this, I inquired about their identities. They jogged my memory, and I afterwards recalled that I was familiar with them. They were ecstatic to see me again, and I could sense their joy as well as their eagerness. They peered up the stairs and informed me that someone wished to speak with me. It seemed as though I was floating as I ascended to the top of the steps. Someone who I recognized to be very significant, and I believe it to be Jesus, was one of the people I encountered. I was aware that throughout my life, I hadn't done nearly enough for him. I was embarrassed to be in the presence of this authoritative individual and realized that I had missed the mark regarding the purpose of my being in this world. I was also ashamed that I needed to be reminded that he gave me this life and asked me what I did with it after he had already bestowed it upon me. I had the impression that he not only loved me but also understood me, and there was no sense of judgment. I was informed that I needed to make my way back. It seems that I turned down the offer since the following recollection that came to me explained why I had to go back to my body. He advised us to think about your mom and dad in the event that we lose you. It occurred to me that it was odd that in the time since I had floated away to this location, I hadn't given them a single thought. He took me to a room with a television screen that was see-through and showed me what it would be like for my parents and my sisters if I didn't come back. It displayed all of their lives in real time, from the very beginning to the very end. It was made clear to me that each one of their lives will be more challenging and filled with grief as a result. I couldn't help but feel guilty and terrible for them that they had to go through that. But I was still worried since I was aware that my loved ones wouldn't be arriving at the location where I was for a very long time at all. While he was demonstrating my potential future on the screen, he informed me that this is your life and purpose. It seemed clear to me that I would become active in the church that I attend presently. In the future, I see myself as happily married with 3 sons. I was able to see each of their individual destinies when they were running amok through the home. I saw that the decisions I made in my life had an impact on the individuals I was closest to. It was up to me to decide which of the numerous options would lead to a successful or unsuccessful conclusion. In other respects, I was dissatisfied because I had the impression that despite all the information I gained, I had thrown away my life. God has given us a wonderful gift in the form of life. I came to the conclusion that I was extremely materialistic and had lost sight of what really matters in life. He showed me an image of the earth that appeared like it was taken from a distant satellite. He demonstrated to me, while slowly moving, that there will be a period of darkness on earth after some time has passed. I had such a compelling want to go back, even if it was just for that one moment. I desired to be a beacon of goodness and to redeem myself so that I might accomplish my goals and realize my destiny. I couldn't ignore the nagging sensation that I needed to get back there as soon as possible and start making a change. I was aware that I would come back and that it wouldn't take me very long to go there and then return to this location. It wouldn't even be worth batting an eyelid. As soon as the idea entered my head, I got the sensation that I was being drawn down a pitch-black tube that spiraled downward into the earth. As I descended, I became aware that there were wicked entities on either side of the tunnel as it narrowed near its terminus. They went unrecognized on our part. Instantaneously, I was provided with the identical answers on their background and the reasons why they were present. Before I even set out on my voyage, I got the distinct impression that the being was traveling along with me. I was re-immersed in my own body. While I was being held by both my mother and my sister, I was sitting in the bathtub. My spirit had the impression that it did not belong, that it was suffocated, and that it was freezing. The sensations of agony, confusion, and dread had taken their place, replacing the intellect and love that had previously been present. The world appeared to be filled with such gloom, and I felt both foolish and isolated once more. I was so upset that I was weeping, and I even had dirt in my lips. When I think back on it, there was absolutely no pain anywhere in my body, which is a miracle. I have no recollection of anything that occurred between the time my parents removed me from beneath the pony and placed me in the bathtub. My parents assured me that I was completely unharmed and that despite being pulled into the muck, I did not sustain any cuts, scrapes, or broken bones. God is good. Let's move on to the next story of someone who came close to dying today. When I was 14, I was going through a period of intense emotional upheaval. My father had recently passed away from an unexpected cardiac arrest. My parents had recently sold the house I had been born into, and my family was forced to relocate out of that house at the end of the same month that my father had passed away. I had just begun attending junior high school. When this dream occurred, I was unconscious since I was sleeping. This prompted me to share it with you since, in some respects, it is comparable to an event that I found described in the list of experiences. I was asleep. I was surprised to find myself in such a breathtaking setting. On my left was a river that ran through the area. I was walking down a route that was next to a river, and to my right was a dense wood. On the opposite side of the river, the sight was the same as it was here. The entire color palette consisted of several tones and gradations of a stunning blue. I was accompanied on my stroll by a person dressed in a hooded cloak. Although I couldn't see their face, we were going shoulder to shoulder the whole time. The sensation of unadulterated love and tranquility pervaded the entire atmosphere. We did not communicate verbally but rather telepathically with one another. Although I do not recall hearing any words, I do recall getting the impression that everything was going to be well, that I would never have to go through life alone. As the years have passed, the feeling of unadulterated love and tranquility that I had in that dream has remained with me.